Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another show. My dear brothers and sisters, this is Muhammad and Friends. And normally I would stream live on this show and could have done it, but I wanted to talk to this brother, myself, the Secretary of the Nation of Islam and the confidant of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Brother John Ali. Assalamu alaikum, John.
Walaikum salam.
How are you, my brother?
Fine, how are you doing?
Thank you. John, we were just reminiscing over your ability to have such a wonderful age, but the main thing you said is to have your faculties.
Right, that's a blessing.
In itself.
Right. To have a good physical age and better a mental age to acknowledge that.
Yeah. Now let me ask you, we don't normally dig deep with you. You've helped so many other people in the Nation of Islam. You've known all of the people. What year did you come in, about 50?
I came in 1954.
54. So you came in 1954. You weren't there. You were old enough to have come a little earlier. But how old were you in 1954?
I was in my 20s.
You was in your 20s?
Right. I came in well, he was a minister, Jeremiah Shabazz.
Yeah, I know y'all were friends.
We were friends. We'd been raised up together. And I saw him one day, and I knew he had association with another girl, a girl who had grown up in our neighborhood. And I knew he was associated with her. And I asked him, her name was Roxy, by the way. I say, how's Roxy doing? And he told me, he said, oh, I'm not dealing with her anymore. Because I hadn't seen her, he said, and he mentioned that he, a brother named Edward B. and Clifford Hyman, the two Hymans, and a brother named Ben, we all grew up together. He mentioned that they were not fooling around like they used to, call it.
Yeah.
They had changed, which was fornicating.
Right.
Although we didn't know that word, it was more vulgar,
Yeah. But
but
Jeremiah put it in perspective.
Yeah, he told me that they were not doing that. I say, and I knew that he, my brother, and others this is this is the main recreation activity in the black community. And they were pioneers of it,
Yeah. Revolutionaries.
Yeah, people knew if you had a daughter, a sister, a mother, or an aunt, and you didn't want her to participate, don't get them around my brother Nathaniel and brother Jeremiah.
I got you.
Because that was the principal activity. They didn't have all these things like they had the day of tennis, and TV game, recreational game,
John, let me ask you, because time will pass so fast and I won't get a chance to ask you. Now, do you have children? Because I've never met any of your children.
I have children. They live in Philly. They're, thanks to Allah.
They live where?
In Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, okay.
And they are Muslims.
Yeah.
They are born in the nation, and they have remained Muslim and live the Muslim life.
That's what I was going to ask you, because Jeremiah has a daughter that's a doctor.
He has two daughters.
Yeah, well, I know one that's a doctor.
Yeah, one doctor. One of the names is Sophia. She is a doctor. I talked to her the other day.
Yeah, we're going to talk to her when we take a break, because she just opened up a new practice.
Right.
Yeah. And let me ask you this, though. This is what I want to ask you. I noticed that Jeremiah's children remained in the nation as well. But your children, how many children did you have?
I have 5. They all in the nation.
And did I know your wife? Who were you married to?
I was married twice. I was married to Minnie. I was married to Dolores.
Dolores? You married Dolores?
Yeah.
Is that right? How long were you married to her?
Oh, about 3 or 4 years.
Okay. Now John Muhammad and I knew you. John Muhammad first introduced me to you, and John liked you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that when John had his temple, and many of the people would come from Philly to join you all on Savior's Day. You know, how did you maintain that kind of relationship when it seemed that all of the Muslims of the pioneer greats, their children all kind of gravitated towards you, even in the history here in Chicago? How was that?
Well, Chicago was, in the Nation of Islam, the history of it was always considered the major temple of Islam, was the headquarter temple, as this is where the messenger lived. And the Muslims throughout the country, they respected the fact that this was the residency of the messenger and the temple. And so he or anyone from Chicago, if they would go to other cities, they would give respect. I remember in Philly we had a brother named Spencer came there to visit. He was traveling, and the Muslims were very excited because to see someone from Chicago who had been associated in the temple with the messenger was a great honor. Mm-hmm. So when I came in, I came in accepting the teachings, and I didn't come in with the expectation that I was ever see the messenger. It was my belief was strong enough in the teaching to accept the teaching, and it wasn't qualified that in order to be a believer, I had to see him.
Now, but let me say, almost right away, your talents were recognized, even whether it was through Jeremiah or whomever, that they told the messenger about you right away. Now, we had these different rumors, which you cleared up some things because you were more, well, what they considered well-educated. Is that right?
Right. When I came in, most of the Muslims, they had finished high school. This was quite an achievement. And I was a college graduate.
Yeah.
So I was sort of exceptional because everybody else in the temple had either been to grammar school or high school, or were, very few of them were even high school graduates.
So in other words, the so-called elite was not part of the operation.
No.
But you...
Because when I came in, my friends and family, because I traveled around in the, what you call the bourgeoisie or the elite of the black circle.
Right.
And when I accepted Islam, they thought I was a bit off.
Yeah.
Mentally, because
yeah.
the temples of Islam or the Nation of Islam didn't have the popularity that it did now. And this was considered something alien because everybody was brought up as a Christian. You're a Christian even though you may not have practiced it. Someone would ask you what your religion, you say Christianity.
Yeah. But I guess what I wanted to ask you, because I really wanted to get to the crux of this. Once you met, do you remember, well, I know you probably remember exactly when you met the messenger, but what brought you to Chicago to meet him? When did he want to see you?
Well, not that he wanted to see me. I came to attend the convention.
Okay.
The temples, we had a group of people from the temple number 12 in Philadelphia, temple number 11 in Boston, temple number 13 Springfield, and Massachusetts, and Temple number 14 in Hartford. And all these temples were developed under Malcolm's teachings. So we were sort of, as you may say, united, and we that group, when we all came out together, in 55 rather, to attend the convention.
Okay, but you came in 54.
I came in 54.
And you came, but Malcolm didn't come. When he came in 1952?
I think he did. He was in long before us.
Yeah, he came in a couple of years.
Because he's the one who organized the temples on the East Coast from north of Baltimore. He organized.
Minister Kareem had number 6, right, in Baltimore.
Yeah, Isaiah Kareem, right.
Okay.
So but Malcolm didn't have anything to do with it, or number 4 in Washington, under Lucius.
Right. But you and Jeremiah were the best of friends. But all three of you all lived together at one time. Malcolm, Jeremiah, and you. Y'all lived in the same apartment building or something?
No, we didn't live, no. I lived in, no, I didn't live. Jeremiah, he had a house. Edward B. lived with him, but I didn't live with him. And Malcolm used to come visit the temple, and Jeremiah's wife would have a dinner, after every meeting.
Right.
And we all gathered there, be 15 or 16 people, the laborers,
right.
Have dinner there with Malcolm.
So why did you come? You came to Chicago for the convention. When did the messenger want to talk to you, though?
Well, I never say the messenger wanted to talk with me, because, like I said, Malcolm brought us all out here. Jeremiah, who was the captain in Philly, George, who was the minister, Lewis.
Didn't he change his name to Majid, Eugene Majid? Was that George?
Kareem Majid.
Yeah, Eugene Majid. What?
Yeah, George. That was George.
Okay.
And Malcolm, Farrakhan, and a brother named Thomas J. was at Hartford, and a brother named Henry, who was in New York.
Right.
He's down in Miami now. Thomas J. is down in Florida. I think he's in Tallahassee.
Yeah, I've seen Thomas J. is frequent Chicago a lot of wherever the minister speaking.
Yeah, I saw him when he came for Minister Farrakhan Lewis' funeral.
Right.
That was the first time I'd seen him in years.
Yeah. But okay. But you in Chicago, whoever wanted to see you, when did you meet the Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
I met the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 1955.
1955, a year after you had come in.
Right.
So what made him, did you sit and had a one-on-one with him? When did you become his secretary? Or what?
Well, I was first the secretary in Philadelphia with George. Malcolm brought me to New York, and I was his secretary. Although he was like the overseer of the temples on the East Coast, from Boston down to Baltimore.
Right.
And he brought me to New York to be the secretary, and we lived together.
Okay.
It was 3 families: Malcolm and his family, Betty Shabazz, me and my wife, Minnie, and a brother named Edward. He was the minister in Temple number 21 in Jersey City.
Mm-hmm.
We all shared an apartment together. And on the first floor was the Muslim who owned the duplex that we had. He lived on the first floor. His name was John Alpert, and his family were Muslims. And his mother-in-law lived on the, what they call an English basement.
Mm-hmm.
And then across the street there was a brother named Brother Curtis, who was very successful
You
as
know,
an auto mechanic. Although he didn't have a garage, he would fix cars on the
on the
street,
street. Yeah,
but he was very successful, you know.
yeah, we
He
know a
had
lot of them like that.
had
I grew up
a
with those. Yeah,
thriving business, you know.
yeah, yeah. I know a lot of them that you just go, you get the oil change, they put a cardboard underneath and change the oil and do all
Yeah,
of
he
that.
became very affluent, you know.
But let me ask you this, John, because I know John Muhammad thought the world of you, and he always felt that John Ali had all the information no matter what. He would tell me these things, that you were the go-to guy. But what I'm asking you, because people, and I asked the minister this one time, and I don't think that people realize what a faithful believer is when they come in contact with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I never sit with him, but I believed every word that he taught. I never heard a man use the language that he used. I never saw the writings that he used. And to back it up, he could talk it. You understand? Everything that we would attribute to Malcolm or the minister, anybody and what they said, I found out if you listen to enough tapes, you heard it from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So I was never confused about the root knowledge. So I'm asking you, how did you develop this faith? You said Malcolm organized the temples. You saw Malcolm bigger than life. But yet, when you met the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you seemed consumed by him, and you chose him over Malcolm and anybody else. Explain that. How does that happen?
Well, I came in, in 54, when I accepted the teaching, I accepted the teachings of Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Although Malcolm was one of his greatest teachers at that time, you know. And I accepted Malcolm as a expounder of his teaching, but not Malcolm as being a great orator, which he was, you know.
Yeah.
I accepted the teachings. In fact, when he deflected from the teachings, you know, we had been living together in the same house, his family and my family, you know, and he knew I gave respect to him as a follower of the messenger. But when he deflected, he thought that respect would continue as a deflector, you know, but I cut my ties with him, you know, even though we had lived together and his family, my children, been raised up together. You know, when he left the messenger, I left him.
Now, see, let me say this to you. I can look at you, and I understand that. But what concerns me, there are many people who write about you to this day who never really knew you, and they saw you as a negative because they elevated Malcolm beyond what you just said. And the way you, if I didn't ask you these questions, you would think that Malcolm was the hero of Islam. And
You know, he was the greatest founder of Islam.
okay, but he got it
He
from
was
somebody.
known that.
Yeah, he was an orator. He had the
Right.
gift of gab, right?
And even people, when you read the autobiography of Malcolm, they misconstrue that. Because if you read the book, autobiography of Malcolm, you would admire the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Because when that book was written, Alex Haley had written an article about the messenger, Reader's Digest. It was in 1962, Reader's Digest, you know, where he identified him as the greatest, most powerful black man in America.
Yeah.
And the Reader's Digest got such a great response from its readers on that article about the messenger. Alex Haley came to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and asked if he could do his autobiography on the messenger. And Malcolm was there, and I was there when he inquired of the messenger. And the messenger said, "No, brother, I don't want. I'm not that vain. I don't, to, because my time is devoted to development of Islam." And Malcolm asked, "Well, dear apostle, if I could tell how you converted me from my unrighteous life and how I was a drunkard, a pimp, a thief, a crook, a jailbird, and you converted me over to righteousness, could I Alex Haley interview me, where really I wouldn't be talking about myself, I would be talking about my conversion to you." And the brother said, "Okay, brother, go ahead." Because the message was like this, in the Holy Quran say, when we hear the message, we say, we hear and we obey.
That's right.
So the message say, the best way to go right here is to go straight down here. And I say, "Oh, dear apostle, there's a step there, it'd be easier to go here." He say, "Go ahead."
Yeah, it's up to you.
Because he done told you go here, and you decided to go there.
Yeah.
You think that's approval, but yes, I told you the right way.
All right, but I ain't got time to argue.
I'm not going to change, like you said. If you could prove one word that he said was a lie, he would give you $10,000 out of his brother's vest pocket.
But John, what I'm trying to get to today is the faithfulness that not just you, but there were others who had faithfulness in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They were willing to hang with him. They were not confused. Even in the laborer's tape. Now, you were adamant in pointing out weakness wherever you saw it, because I could hear you on the tape. Even some of his ministers that you felt were weak, you would point it out. Now, of course, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad showed empathy for many of his ministers. Like I think you kind of chastised Minister Woodrow. He was soft, and someone else who was not selling papers. And you were talking about them. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, went on to, I think he spanked them in a nice way. Because if they don't want to sell the paper, that's their bid. You know what I mean? He know how important the paper is. He'll do it himself. But today's generation of Muslims and sympathizers, even they see, look, maybe I'm wrong, but I've agonized over this, that who am I? Because I just don't give Malcolm the credit that some give him. And I'm so caught up on this slanderer and the defamer, and apparently you were too, because you right away knew that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was shooting a gun. So you knew the work Malcolm did, but you weren't confused to go with Malcolm as opposed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But there are people today that's so silly after the messages say don't harm one hair on Malcolm's head, that you all who believed in him, you were going to be faithful enough and zealous that you'll go out and harm Malcolm anyway. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told you, if you don't harm any hair on his head, that's between him and God. God will intervene. Why don't people see that?
Well, because people want to advance their own agenda. People there's an effort overtly and covertly to erase or eliminate the message's teaching from our lives.
Simple as that.
Even to the day, there's no effort to promote him as a historic figure in the development and growth of the American so-called Negro. You know, they'll talk about King, Adam Clayton Powell, Ida B. Wells, Booker T. Washington, but there's no effort to promote the messenger as transforming the life of the so-called Negro into a worthy, righteous life.
Okay, I come to this point. Vanity has its place, John. Now, when I heard this teaching at the age of 22, it took me by storm. I couldn't believe that there was a man that existed like this, that said the things that he was saying, and the person who brought me to the teaching, how he could have been involved and not have been more vocal and visible. In fact, he, quite frankly, had hid his relationship with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now, I want you to follow me a moment. When I got ready to do what I'm doing now, I told John Muhammad, who was a prominent minister in the Nation of Islam. I like John. You know, when John was working with the city of Chicago, because I was a building inspector too. Mm-hmm. And I want to say this because I don't think people really understand this. But I told John, I said, now, this is what I want to do, John. I got to do this. I called a meeting at my house. There was a lot of different people there that filled my little basement up. They were novice. They weren't believers. John was one of the few believers that was there. Reverend Al Sampson was there. The reason I bring this up because I never could understand this with John. Because John came and after the success that I thought, it was success because people in the room let me know that they thought the Honorable Elijah Muhammad should be remembered. They really didn't have a plan or nothing, but he should be remembered. But you know, John gave me a paper with the 63rd Surah, hypocrites. You know, I think about 5 or 6 verses. He was saying, this is the only way you can do this. A mosque and temple. I was telling them the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teaching was being written out of history as we spoke. Because this place with Malcolm this and Malcolm that, it's not that I'm just beating up on Malcolm, but they have used him as a smoke screen to keep from seeing the real man. And years later, things have come out that apparently we were right, John, that you had to have some place just to focus on Elijah because they were full speed ahead, and we didn't know white people had already set the plan up. Did you know that they had written about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and said they'll just wait until he died?
Oh, yeah. J. Edward Hoover wrote that in 1969 in a memo.
That's right.
He wrote it in a memo. And
how long did you know that?
I've known it since 69. I have a copy of the memo. Hoover wrote that.
But, you know, that's my point, John.
That he wrote that when the messenger died, they would change the teachings of the messenger to be right. Strictly religious.
And not only that, they would use his son to do that. They identified, well, Herbert didn't have to worry about him, but Wallace, who was the messenger, was still favored toward. He liked him. They would use him. Now, you knew that, John. I did not know.
Well, the messenger liked all of his children. He didn't like one or the other. I remember when in 63 when Malcolm defected and his grand Hassan Sharif was affiliated more with Wallace than his grandfather.
That's right.
And the Messenger, in fact, he writes about it, and I think it's in the Messenger Black Man or
Yeah, it is.
in the answer to critics. What about it? They asked him about what about the opposition from his grandson and his son, and he said, "This is where you'll find, Absalom, his son,
David, yeah.
disagree with him, but this is not affected teachings
Right, that's right.
of the
You know,
teachings."
John, I'm not amazed that you know this, but I'm amazed that you have the ability to retain this, and no one has really talked to you publicly about that. But see, when I get to thinking about the books that we wouldn't have if it would not be for you, because you didn't just sit on the sideline, you asked the messenger about putting his words into print, which meant that you knew, as the Holy Quran said, he neither errs nor does he deviate. He doesn't speak an idle word. But I'm concerned that many of your ministers and believers of old could not have had the faith in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad because it was too easy for them to deviate. Now, Wallace, he didn't do a lot to get us to go against the messenger. I mean, when I said he didn't have to, it was almost as if we were waiting for the opportunity. Would you agree to that?
Oh yes, I mean it was that's a conduit for the manifestation of the disbelief that existed in some of the people.
Okay, John, brothers and sisters, we're talking to John Ali, and forgive me for pressing on and talking a lot, but it's something I just want to get to understand, and I see now more than ever that John has some keys that need to be utilized, and they need to be utilized quickly if we're going to save our young people. It seems like it's difficult to get us to understand. I want to take a break, but I don't want to lose my trend. And what I like about you is that your curiosity has always gotten to me. You always see something you want to read, don't you?
Yes, in fact, I'm looking at a pile of books.
Yeah.
You have that. I want to go through that pile.
And I'm going to let you do that. But listen, and I'm gonna see, I want you to see the Band-Aids that people use trying to reach the pinnacles of success with the great books of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I think I'll take a break and just let you hear, and I hear just a word or two from the messenger so we can talk about some of your curiosity out there, okay? Our brothers and sisters, we're not streaming live, but we're talking to John Ali. Do you have a middle name?
Wally.
Wally. Okay, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and talk more with John Wally Ali. We'll be right back.
I cannot keep perfect record myself all the time. I have to have help to keep a record. I almost have to have help for myself. Well, I didn't keep a record of me, I would be lost. So don't think anything strange with that. As you know, that we have been all but universally attacked here for the last 4 or 5 months, especially. Universally attacked. And this attack was for the purpose of getting rid of me. And I don't know who all is behind the attack. I have been trying to keep quiet to try to learn just the strength of the attack. No general can put his army against another army until he knows the strength of that army. So I have not been, say, sleeping on the job, I have been trying to learn just the source and strength of my enemy. So I wish that you remember this, that this kind of attack that has been made on me personally and indirectly on you, because attack on me should be on you too. It should have hurt us gravely. But it didn't so far. It has not so far, because you're still here. And we still have our temples with the same followers. So the attack is not so powerful yet enough to destroy Muhammad. This, I would like that you get this in mind, ministers, as you are my helpers, that these kind of attacks, as you're not through with them, we have something else to face yet. May not be the same nature, but we have attacks yet to come on us. I don't want to excite you now in the very least. Don't get excited in the very least. Because if I'm not excited and I am the hare in front of the hound, I don't think you should get excited. The hound wants me most of all. And you must arm yourself with proof from Scripture, standpoint, to prove my position. If you don't come out first and attack the enemy that attacks me, if you sit down and wait until I attack, then you're not much of a help.
Assalamu alaikum, we're back, and my dear brothers and sisters, history is so beautiful, but to have a historian right here with us. So let me just say this, brothers and sisters. Sometimes you don't understand what you have in your midst. And John Ali is responsible, and I say responsible for the message to the black man, Fall of America, Our Savior Has Arrived, How to Eat to Live 1 and 2, for those books being produced. Why? Because the messenger never spoke an idle word. Just as we took 1958 Savior's Day and transcribed it, and it became the birth of a Savior. Nothing like the messenger's words. He was un-American. His English was not that of the Queen's English, but he spoke a language that was foreign to many people, but it was so profound. I was just sharing with him the book that the brother, or the research brother Demetrius that I had on, did on Hallelujah. Hail Elijah, I'm sorry. And he got a picture, of course, of the Esquire magazine that we talked about a lot. The Esquire magazine saying, if it were not for this little man, we would have had a glorious future. But John tells the story of what he did, which I'm going to talk about this too. Tell them what happened when you read.
Well, I used to read everything,
That's right. And I bear witness. And that's why I can't interview
magazines, and if I found something, even if it was a line about the messenger, pro or con, I would bring it to him. And I saw this in Esquire magazine where they had this cartoon of this character where they had The drawing of the fellow with the big nose, well, that represents President Charles de Gaulle. And the one on the left of him, he's pointing to, saying, "Hi, folks." That was Liberace, and behind that was a character of the messenger. And then this cartoon with the hi-hat, that was Chico Marx. And over on the right side of the cartoon of the drawing of a fellow with the mustache, that was Governor Dewey of New York.
Mm.
And I saw that in the Esquire magazine in '54, and I brought it to the messenger and showed him, you know.
And he did what with it?
And he took the copy and put it into his right suit pocket of his jacket.
Mm.
And he kept it with him all the time.
Now, look at this history. You see, brothers and sisters, how in the world are we going to discard a man like this? And that's what I'm saying. See, we have this archive, the history, living legends. And I'm not talking about distant wannabes. All of us want to be a star when we think we can get over on people and they don't know anything about our history. But this man has a working history in the Nation of Islam. And as I say, even when the messenger was sick, it was he who had to come back and make the people realize that you need to get a private plane down there to get our messenger. Now, what am I saying? Just like he said every word that he see, that's what I tell the believers. How in the world are you going to see something going on with the messenger, a crow of the archive, and you don't tell me about it? And I'm not equating myself with the messenger, but if you're not going to talk about it, you're not going to do nothing with it. Why not tell somebody who's going to get it out and talk about it? And what did John Ali say? He brought it to the man who was going to talk about it. And so I'm just saying, you know, look, brothers and sisters, this is a real world. And in order to make history, you have to make things happen. And you have to be proactive in what you do today. And I'm saying he saw the messenger's words, which were profound. He went to the messenger. Other people were around him. So these children could say, well, that's my daddy. That's my daddy. I own all the rights to my daddy. But look, brother and sister, I tell you this, and you should remember. When the white people saw Niagara Falls and you saw it, you went on vacation as a tourist. He made electricity from it. So people see different things. And so I applaud you, John Ali. I'm going to take another break while you scanning through that, and then I'll come back. And unfortunately, we're going to have to wind down in this segment. But promise me, we just beginning. You're going to come back and do more shows with me, right?
Yes.
You promise?
I promise.
Okay. I'm going to take out one last break. I know you enjoyed the messenger, so whatever, we'll be right back.
And you must arm yourself with truth from Scripture, you know, standpoint, to prove my position. If you don't come out first and attack the enemy that attacks me, if you sit down and wait until I attack, then you're not much of a help. I'm just telling you frankly. Any time that your leader is attacked, you is attacked. And you should go after the attacker with everything you have, you know, of truth to defend yourself and your leader. These attacks falsely accusing and getting paying enemies, hypocrites.
Assalamu alaikum. We're back, and brothers and sisters, being consistent with the history. I'm Munir Muhammad, talking to John Ali, enjoying myself and talking to him. And he knows how to interpret. You know, if a person came in here speaking French, brothers and sisters, I wouldn't know what they say. So when you write about things, and a lot of you do want my approval about things and what I think about it, I'm flattered. But John Ali is showing me, in the rules of interpretation, he certainly knows something. Now, we know that Jeff Ford met with the messenger too. But that meeting was arranged by John Ali. Why was it arranged, John?
Well, they, at the time, someone in the organization indicated they wanted to meet with the messenger and you know, discuss their affiliation with the temple. And I arranged for the messenger agreed to meet with him. He had him at his house, which I'd like to interject to all sides. The messenger never went to a TV station.
It never.
Or a radio station. No, he wasn't publicity seeking. If someone wanted to discuss with him, if he felt it worthy, he would invite them to his home. But he never went to a TV station. You know, we had some leaders like Farrakhan and Jesse Jackson. They never saw a camera or a microphone they didn't like.
Yeah.
You know, you can put a microphone from a camera and they ready to reveal everything they know or don't know.
But you know, and I'll press you on that, and I'm going to get to this other point that you want to make about Jeff Ford wanting the messenger to join him.
Oh, Jeff Ford came there, you know. And
but where would he get the audacity from to?
Well, vanity, like they say, all is vanity. You know, he thought, and he been given a lot of publicity in the press, you know, about his gangsters with his organization, you know, and so this fed into his ego. And just like they were propaganda about the messenger or promotion about the messenger, he thought the propaganda about him equal him being as astute as the messenger. And he suggested that the messenger join with him in the propagation of his gangsterism theories. And the messenger looked at him firmly in the eye, and the messenger could look at you and hold his gaze, which was like a laser. And he said, brother, I'm not going to join with you. I'm not going to leave my cause of righteousness to affiliate with you. You know, indicating like you must be insane to think I'm going to leave righteousness to join with you
And
because of your notoriety.
Now let me go back to you something that you said. Now the messenger never sought out cameras. He never went to be interviewed. They always would have to come to him.
Never.
Okay, now let me ask you this. You as the secretary, like you told me, you facilitated that meeting. I noticed now, John, all the things that you know, I've not known you to be out from a propagation perspective to be on television pushing unless you had to. You did it when Malcolm was killed. You did it when they interviewed the messenger out of New York, that group, about the farm, and you talked about Malcolm turning hypocrite, thinking he was the leader. But you know more than most. Why haven't you been available? And when you mentioned Jesse Jackson and Mr. Farrakhan, of course, Jesse Jackson was going to go and speak on behalf of his group everywhere. And Mr. Farrakhan did the same. He went out and spoke. But as you know, when he stood up to remind people of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, for a few years he wouldn't even do any interviews. So he did have some discipline. But I'm asking you, as a man who knows what you know, and I'm glad you've considered to come back and do interviews with me, because I probably just tapped a little. How could you have sit with a man, know so much, have all of this in your head, you don't want to document it anywhere, or you feel like it'll gradually come out?
Well, I did document it and putting together the teachings of the messenger. You know,
I don't see your name.
My purpose was to help the messenger in delivery of his message.
So we would have to learn that, though.
So I put the messenger, I gathered the teachings, the speeches, the writing of the messenger.
So you did your part.
And putting together his book, The Message to the Black Man.
But you don't feel like you could have articulated it more? He's been gone for 43 years.
No, that's sufficient, you know.
Huh?
It's not sufficient. Even Farrakhan, he's a great orator, but who can state the teachings of the message better than what the message stated himself?
So you said the book
in The Message of the Black Man, you know?
Okay.
Or To How to Eat to Live, or The Fall of America, which I did an introduction in that book.
Yeah, that's the only one you did an introduction to.
And I did one on the To How to Eat to Live, you know.
Did you?
But most people, when they reprint it, even Farrakhan, they cut that out, you know. I did an introduction to both of those books.
Now, I didn't see, but I saw the introduction of Message to the Black Man.
Because it was on the cover, and they reprinted the back cover, but they don't print it. And it went over to the inside cover.
Oh, okay. All right, well, let me ask you this about the Dan Burley. What was your relationship with him?
Very good.
I mean, it's so good that you all allowed him to write the introduction.
Yeah, he had written a series of articles about the messenger in the Crusader newspaper, and we took those articles and put it together as an introduction to the book. Yeah. He was very much an admirer of the messenger.
He was.
Yes.
Yeah, and he did, when y'all did the No Whites Allowed, and Black Muslims at the Crossroads.
Yeah. Dan Burley was a great admirer of the messenger.
We love Dan Burley ourselves.
Yeah.
So, John, do you feel, let me ask you this.
I think the messenger, you know, allowed us to use his writings as an introduction.
But he smoked cigarettes like a trade.
Yeah.
He couldn't stop. His daughter recently died, too, his only daughter.
Right.
So, John, you were comfortable and going to your grave knowing that you had something to do with the books, and if people really wanted to know, that's how you be honored. But rather than to speak on it yourself, you were very comfortable in not opening your mouth.
Well, I was the secretary from 1960 to 1970. And
well, tell me that then.
And the messenger, you know, put me out because I went to him and confessed that I was living a righteous life. He didn't ask what I was doing that was unright. He didn't have to, because he was the messenger.
He knew.
He knew, you know, you, me, or anyone, you know.
So you went like the Catholics. You treated them like the Catholics. We went to confession.
Yeah, like we say in our prayer, you know, more than the Catholics, you know, we're the ones who pray every day, and I do confess my faults. So
that's
please grant me, but this is our daily prayer.
But did he ask you not to leave, John?
No. He didn't want me to leave because he knew I was one of his best laborers. But he, being a leader and a man of righteousness, he had to execute the law on me. Where he rather or not, I could see that in his face that he want to. But even though you're a good labor, John, but you're not living right, and I got to execute the law. I can't let my personal feelings or the lack of you overcome my responsibility as a messenger in living a righteous life and executing the righteous laws of Islam, the restricted law of Islam, and I understood that.
All right, John Ali, let me tell you something. You've done a great job in this part one. I'm going to bring you back to do part two, but I'm going to ask you, because I'm getting ready to go off now. But will you do an additional 30 minutes for me?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Brothers and sisters, I want to thank Brother John Ali for part one, and I'm going to do a part two of it, at least 30 minutes, and that'll be it. My dear brothers and sisters, thank you so much for watching, and may Allah bless you with the light of understanding as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum.